Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Horror 421, the podcast, with your hosts, special effects makeup artist supreme, Elena Morales, and your friendly small-town horror author, Charles Campbell. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the frights in this week's episode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Horror 421, the podcast. I'm your host, Charles Campbell, and my beautiful co-host, Elena Morales, is with us today.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have a very special guest. She's been a friend of mine for a few years now, and she's an author. And I've read a couple of her books. She's got a lot of books out there. But today we would like to welcome Kim Laettner to the show.
Hello.
Hello, Kim.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Like I said, I've read a few of Kim's books. I haven't read everything she's got out there, but I will tell you off the jump, one of my favorites out of the ones that I've read has been The Girl Who Captured the Stars. So I want you guys to take a good look at that. And we will definitely be asking Kim questions about this book in particular for sure. But thank you to the show. Thank you for coming to the show, Kim.
Sure. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome.
My first podcast. I'm a podcast virgin no longer.
Well, before we really get into the questions, why don't you kind of give us a backstory on yourself? You can kind of tell us what led you down the path of writing, or what made you want to become an author, and then we can go from there.
Sure. Okay, let's start with probably when I was 10 years old. I mean, I was an avid reader. I was like one of those kids. I'd lock myself into my room and I'd read 3 Harlequin romances a day. That's how voracious of a reader I was. Harlequin romance because my girlfriend's sister belonged to whatever club that they have where they send you new ones every month. So she had this huge bookshelf just filled with them. So every couple days I go over, I bring back what I read and grab 5 more, and 2 days later and on and on. And this happened over probably a good year and a half till I was reading quicker than she was getting books. And yes, we had a library, and every time I would go into a library, I was looking at things like Alive. Any kind of torture stories always just intrigued me. You know, the plane, people crashing on the plane, the soccer team, and they're eating each other to live. And shipwrecks, far cry from Harlequin romance. But at that point, I kind of switched gears and started reading like history, kind of got away from the romance thing. And it's like, okay, after a while, hundreds of books, they kind of all felt the same to me. And it's like, no, let's kind of tangent off onto something else. And my mother's boyfriend at the time was a huge, huge fan of John Denver. Can I say that out loud? John Denver, not Jim anymore. And I just he introduced me to the music, and between him with that and the Moody Blues, I started writing poetry. And it's not that I wanted to write songs, I just wanted to write something. And it was a way of getting your feelings out, when you're going through your little teenage drama, crap like that. And it's like, I need to get this out. So I've made it where every day I put out 10 pages of poetry. I mean, I have notebooks. I have 2 crates filled with notebooks that I left behind when I moved with the girl who moved into my house, who I knew would take very good care of them until I could go back. We had no room to pack them. The truck was full. So they're sitting out there. I told her, well, in the meantime, if I ever get famous, you've got all my first poetry. You can read some of it. And she was laughing. She's like, oh my God, it's all about the boyfriend at the time. And my little doodles in the corner, and I read it and I was like, what the hell was I thinking? It wasn't really poetry. It was just thoughts. And it never occurred to me really to start writing books. I started a blog on WordPress, and I would write a poem a day, sometimes 2. And over probably 2.5 years, amassed like 4,200 followers. And it was all kind of nature inspired. I don't listen to music when I write. And if I do, it's background noise. Now I know Charles just cranks the tunes and free for all, having fun in there. I cannot do that because it just takes my mind away. And a lot of what I write I pull from 80s music because it's kind of what seems to be running through my head. I have my own internal soundtrack up here, so I don't have to crank the tunes. And I don't want to be stealing somebody else's words and using them in my books and getting nailed for plagiarism when it was just kind of where the thought took me based off of the music, usually Simple Minds and The Cure. A lot of my more recent works seems heavily influenced by like the 80s punk and goth culture type of tunes, which is fine with me because I love it. I listen to everything. I'm very open-minded as far as listening to things, but not while I write. It just distracts me too much. And fast forward, I moved to Florida. At that point, I've been here for 6 years now. I still hadn't written a novel. And one day I love thrift stores. I love going into thrift stores. I love just everything about them, walking through and looking at things and touching things. And my favorite thing to find is like pictures of like old dead people. So I don't do creepy dolls. I like pictures of old dead people. So needless to say, I was in a thrift store close to where I worked, and there was this really pretty frame, and it was like $5. And this was what was in the picture.
That's beautiful.
Now, I don't know who she is. And everybody, as I went to cash out, they're like, are you related to her? And I'm like, I highly doubt it. I don't know who she is. I just want the frame. So I take her out, and on the back, it said Nella McMiller or Nella McMella. We can never figure out. And I've shown it to tons of people. Everybody has a different take on what the last name is. So I kind of propped her up on my little desk, and I'm doing my thing, writing my poetry. And I went to bed, and I had a dream about this woman. And it's like, I don't know who she is. Maybe I'm getting her vibes or something. Happy vibes. Probably for a week straight, I kept dreaming about this woman. And she was like weaving this tale through my head. And I look at my husband at the end of the week. I'm like, she's driving me crazy. There's a story here and I have to write it. He's like, yeah. And I sat down, and a little over a month later, I had 98,000 words written. I was just a machine. I didn't think about it. I type 80 words a minute, and I would look at her picture and type. And the story just kind of unfolded itself. And it's like, okay.
Charles, doesn't that remind you of the show Marianne a little bit?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one. Do I need to watch that?
You should definitely watch it. It's so good. It's French, no?
Yeah, it is.
I think it's French.
It's French.
You can watch it with the Netflix dubbing or without it. They're both good either way. But the premise of the show is the author, she has a long-going series of, it's kind of like a demon kind of wreaking havoc in the world. And she decides that she's done with this character. She no longer wants to write it. And everybody is like totally pissed at her for wanting to do that. So what happens is, as soon as she stops writing the story, everything in her life turns to absolute hell. And there's so many different things that keep happening. And basically you kind of find out that the demon is actually real. And the way to suppress it within her mind is for her to like just keep writing. So it's a really good show, but her process was almost just like what you said. She kind of was thinking about it, and she would go in almost a trance-like state, and that was her process of writing. So I just thought that was really cool.
I call it channeling. Everybody asks me, I said, it's almost like you're channeling this message from somewhere. My idea was not to write books. I write poetry. It's all flowery. It's all nice. And here I'm writing about a serial killer and a love story and a mystical thrift store all in one. And I got it done, and I had no idea. My friend Francie had published a book, and I bought a copy from her, and she sent it to me. And I was just like, somebody I know could write a book. Why can't I do this? Wait a minute, you just did. You just don't know what to do with it now.
Right.
So I picked her brain a little bit and went through Amazon. I studied the different ways of publishing, and I wasn't looking for a publisher. I wasn't looking for, I didn't think it was going anywhere. Nobody's going to read this. My mother will read it because my mother loves me. Maybe my sisters and brother too, my husband. And he read it. My husband read it, and he's just like, wow, where did this come from? Like, I don't know. This crazy woman in my head named Nella told me her story. And I did my due diligence. I went through everything. I was so proud of myself. I learned how to format it through Amazon on my Mac computer that I bought. My husband's like, okay, you're serious about this. Let's go get you a decent computer. And went into the big bad Apple store like, ooh, $2,000 for a computer. You're crazy. I ended up dropping, I think, $1,400, thinking, I better do something with this computer, not going to spend all this money. And I read everything. Francie gave me a book that she uses for, how to edit, because, my grammar, don't call the grammar police on me, because they would have a field day. I put this book out. My little sister calls me 2 days later. She's like, who's your editor? And I'm like, why? She's like, well, you better fire them and get your money back. I'm like, no. I went on, I immediately reread what I wrote, and it's like typo here, typo there. Now I think the norm is you're allowed one for every 10,000 words. And I've gotten much better even at that. I'm lucky if I get 3 per book now. But at the time I was like devastated. Here I'd sold all these books, and now I find out that the editing on it, that done by my hand, sucks. And it's like,
well,
I
don't know if I want to bring this up or not, but since you're talking about typos, I'm going to bring Elena shaking her head.
There's a lot of things in Horror 421, the podcast, and we're not talking about that one.
We're not going to talk about that one?
Let's hear it.
No.
We'll talk about it after the podcast. I wasn't going to say his name. I was going to say put names in.
But then they're never going to want to be on our podcast.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
want them on our podcast.
All right. I'm going to defer to my co-host's advice, and when this is over, I will share, and I still won't share names. But after
I get big name authors and I'm reading them, and I was like, okay, there's a mistake. And now I'm picking it out.
Well, see, that was the thing that I'm not going to talk about. That was my state of mind, because I was in the middle of writing a book. And so my mind was on laser focus for that kind of thing. And I usually don't read a book while I'm writing a book, but for some reason I did during this time period. And anyway, without going into the detail, so Elena won't kill me.
No names.
That's kind of what happened. I was just really focused on that kind of thing. So, but I get it. I mean,
So Stephen King makes mistakes too, huh?
Well, yeah. I actually, a few years ago when I was in Venice, ironically enough, sitting on the beach reading a copy of The Shining. I don't know which revision it was, but it was a reread. I've read it several times. But there was a typo in that book. One typo.
It was?
Yeah. I don't know which revision it was. So it may have been corrected,
okay.
Because books get revised all the time without people knowing about it, Right. But it was an old copy, so maybe it was early on, maybe, I don't know, but there was one single typo, and I wish I had the book with me, because I marked it was a paperback. I dog-eared the page. I found a typo in Stephen King's book, so I thought that was amazing.
It's one of my favorite books.
I just read that last year for the first time. I'd seen the movie.
I did too. I can't lie.
Yeah.
And I'm a Stephen King fanatic, but the movie scared me as a kid, so I was always so leery to read it. I was like, I really just don't. But then I read the book and I was like, this is 10 times better than the movie. Oh my God. Yeah. Then I rewatched the movie right after. I was like, this was a piece of shit. I'm so sorry. I really am mad about it. I'm so pissed they didn't do the trees not the trees, the bushes they did in the book. Yeah. And I was like, they could have done so much.
Yeah.
You'll remake Aladdin, but you won't remake The Shining. It's fine. It's fine.
I heard King wasn't too impressed with the movie either, so.
He likes it better now than he did before, but when it first came out, I think Stephen King was pissed about it.
Yeah, he wasn't very.
But at the same time, with most of that director's films, it's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
He his are always really artistic films, so I think you have to go with that as being very pretty, which it is. But Jack Nicholson, his character was he gave me pedo vibes the entire time. He had just this weird, but they didn't play more into the alcoholic situation like they did in the book. So there was so many more lingering questions, why all of a sudden is he acting like such a psycho? Where does it come? Where is the
Cabin
emphasis.
fever.
Where's it coming from? Yeah.
Right.
If you
So
live in Buffalo, you would know come wintertime that lasts 6 months out of the year, you would know what cabin fever is.
yeah,
When you move
yeah,
to
but
Florida and become a writer.
the only thing I can think of is how bad Shelley Duvall had it on set, though. They said that they just tortured that poor woman. I felt so bad.
Well,
for her.
for what she was given, I thought she did a great job. But
Yeah, of course.
but I'm going to say a but there. That wasn't Wendy in the book. She was a
No,
billion%
she was too
stronger.
mousy.
Yeah, she was
Mousy of a character.
she was a way stronger than Shelley Duvall's character. So that kind of irritated me a little bit.
I think she was blonde too, wasn't she?
I think you're right.
I want to say you're correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, the innkeeper. What was his name in the book? Why did I just forget his name?
I've read the book
Who
3 or
had
4
the
times.
who had The Shining?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
I was mad that they did him like that because I really didn't know that he actually survived in the book. Like he was such more of a major character in the book.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Was
I
it
don't know.
Scatman Crothers?
Scatman Crothers in the movie. Yeah.
Yep.
I love him.
Yeah. Well, they had a guy play his role in the new movie that just came out for the sequel.
Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, Dr. Sleep. I was thinking.
The book yet, so I haven't watched
Yeah.
it.
You haven't seen the movie, but they had a guy who's really comparable to Scatman Crothers. He did a great job. But yeah, I love Dr. Sleep. I love the movie. It was all good. Now
I haven't seen it yet, so don't give me any spoilers.
well, there's 2 versions out there. There's a director's cut,
There
which
is?
is like, it's like almost 3 hours long, and the other one's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. Just like a midsummer length almost.
No more torture. No more of that one.
That's right. Well,
Tim, who's your favorite author? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I could say Charles Campbell, but that would be, I don't think I really have a favorite because I read so much. It's not, I follow a lot of authors like on Goodreads and stuff. And when something new comes out, I'm not rushing to get the book just for the fact that lately, the last couple of years, I have not had a whole lot of time to read a lot. Kristen Hannah, I kind of got into her for a little bit, but then, these books are massive and it's like, I joined a book club every month. They're putting out, we're reading this and it's part of a series. I'm like, no, not doing a series because then I'm going to get no work done because I'm just going to sit there. I
needed no answers.
When I was a kid, I would sit there with a flashlight and read until the sun came up and then drag my butt to school yawning and, my bags under my eyes, but you couldn't put it down. And those days are gone. Now it's like, I kind of block out time to read something. And what am I reading right now? A book I picked up because it's small. Einstein's Dreams from Alan Laettner. Because it's kind of a time travel-y thing and it goes along similar to kind of what I'm writing now. And I just picked it up. Oh, this looks interesting. And from the first page, I'm like, I love this style, just the thought pattern behind it. So I keep finding new and different authors that, when they hit me, they hit me. Now I might at some point go to see, did he do anything else? But not right away. I'm not a rabid fan really to anybody just because I don't have the time to. I'm too busy churning out my own or trying to churn out my own.
Right.
But I do read here and there. I've got a whole closet full, stacks of books that I've picked up. It's like, okay, let's number them all. 1, 2, 3. And it's like, I'll get to them someday before I'm dead, I'm sure. But
the worst is when I go to the thrift store, I just collect more. I'm like, no, why did I do this?
Well, speaking of the thrift store, Kim alluded to this a little bit in her backstory, but I do want to bring up this book. This is one of the books that I have read that Kim has put out there. But it's called Tales from the Thrift. And Elena, when you get a chance, you might want to give it a read. But and I know Francie's getting a big kick out of it because somebody's name was used in this book, named Francie. So tell us a little bit more in detail.
Oh, I love that book cover.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
I made that
really pretty.
I made it myself.
Well,
things I've learned.
talk about this book a little bit more in detail. What was the inspiration behind this book? And I know this is probably the one you were talking about. You sat there and was in a, channeled.
That was Nella McMellar.
That's
right.
And
I had just finished reading Francie's book, probably about 2 weeks before. And
was that Velvet?
Velvet,
Yeah.
which I absolutely loved. I've read that 3 times already, and I'm just like, I loved everything about it. There's one character I was kind of, she probably could have left that out, but I'm not critiquing. And it's each time I go back and read it, I was like, okay, yeah, they fit in there. It's good. So the thrift, I just started writing because the fact I found Nella's picture at a thrift store, and it was a matter of, what if there was a mystical thrift store? You walk in, and as I wrote the book, I could see where everything was laid out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a thrift store I'd ever been in. I didn't model it after the multitude of ones I've been in. It was just, I knew where everything was, the names to the characters. I didn't pre-plan anything. This was completely pantster. I planned nothing. How could you? I didn't even know what I was doing. I just sat and wrote what Nella in my head told me to write. And he had like magic rings in there that each had their own little special gift that they helped the people who had them. There's a segment in there on bouncing because there's a little library.
Yep.
And when you open up the book, it's like you're there. I backtrack it. I always like to put a little of my home base in. I'm from Buffalo originally, so I had Niagara Falls. Then I had to stop. Well, what happened up there that would be fascinating enough where you would want to step back in time and go there? And it's like Niagara Falls. And I Wikipedia, who went over Niagara Falls in a barrel, and read all about this woman. So I put her into the book. That, Francie met her on a bounce and didn't realize who she was at the time, but now she's older and talking about the cat lived. Everybody thought the cat died and the cat lived. And I just kept kind of grabbing things if I was having them go bounce. My mother's favorite place as a kid was Crystal Beach, an amusement park up in Canada. So I threw that in there knowing that, my mother would read that and get a thrill out of it.
Right.
And sometimes when I'm writing, I do think of other people, like, what could I put in there that would give them a kick, Like I could put in, Alligator Drive, like you did with Alligator Drive. And I was like, holy crap, that's 1 block away from my house. And drag my husband down there, and I'm holding up your book and having him take pictures. He's like, what the hell are we doing? I'm like, I got to send Charles pictures. This is Alligator Drive. Then we went looking for the house.
Yeah, I made up the address. I made the address up. So yeah, she was like, where's 425 Alligator Drive? It's not here.
But it's little things like that, when you come across something that hits home with you, like, oh, I know that. And I do that now, especially a lot of my books that are taking place here in Venice. I always put local, restaurants in it, or where I happen to work is in one of them. The gift store that carries most of my books, they're in one. I think Agnes McMuffin.
Yeah, I think I put a gift store in Chasing the White Rabbit that's down there. Sea Treasures and something.
And Pleasures.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there, down on the corner.
Yeah.
But the thrift, it just kind of morphed and kept moving. And it's like, as a reader, it's like, well, you got to have some drama in here. Oh, there's a tornado coming. Let's throw a tornado in for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And I just kept adding things in, and it just kind of morphed on its own. I don't do that so much anymore. I do get the inspiration from somewhere, but I do a little bit more planning now. When at least I can plan. The characters don't always play nice though. Like the latest one, where it was going is completely morphed off from where I started with where it was going. But they like to do that.
That always happens to me. I have a general idea in my brain where things are going to go, but they never end up where I thought they were going to end. So it's kind of where I'm at with the book I'm writing now. But Elena and I, we've talked to a lot of people in the horror industry. We call this Horror 421, the podcast, and there are some creepy elements in Tales from the Thrift. There really are, but I want to kind of segue into
serial killer.
Oh yeah. That will do it. But really, and it still stands as my favorite book that you've written. And I've got to read more of your books. I'm definitely going to read the sequel, and I want you to tell me a little bit about the sequel. But I want to talk about The Girl Who Captured the Stars for a few minutes. It tells the story of Damien and Kira, and Damien's this guy who comes back, and he actually buys the house that Kira used to live in. And I don't want to give away too much of the story for the folks that haven't read it, but Kim, I want to get your overview on The Girl Who Captured Stars, how you came up with that idea. And this definitely belongs, it's not like a blood and gore horror story, but it's spooky and it's got a element.
Atmospheric.
Yeah.
Very atmospheric. The mood and the tone in the book too was very nicely done, and it just was a very nice immersive experience with everything going on with the main character. It was just, I really enjoyed this story. So I just want to make sure I tell you that I really, really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. It's probably one of the ones that I sell the most of, and I think that's because of the cover. Another one that I made myself. I seem to do better when I make my own covers, because if I have somebody else make it for me, it's like after the fact, it's like, yeah.
I do not. My covers suck.
I had to. I had no money to spend it until I sold books. It's like everything I was doing, it's like you're doing it for free. You got to learn how to do this stuff yourself. So
yeah, I my cover maker's on the podcast with us right now. She's done the last two, and they've been amazing. But anyway, back to The Girl Who Captured the Stars. What inspired that? How'd you come up with that?
The girl came from COVID. Funny enough, not that anything's funny about COVID, but at work, we shut down where I work from March 15th to October 1st because the owner, God bless her heart, did not want any of us getting sick. Now, this is the beginning back in the thick of things where, you know, it was like a war zone. Everybody's running around, powering, wearing their masks and hiding from the world. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting out having a cocktail with my husband, and we have this whole wall of jasmine behind our house. And I just love the smell of jasmine. Well, come March, it starts blooming. And I just sit there in the evening when it's warm and just inhale the fragrance. Well, I walked outside with the dogs and I plucked one of the pieces of jasmine, took it back with me, sat it down next to my cocktail, talking. And I looked down about an hour later, and to me, they look like little white stars. They've always just, I love stars. I love anything cosmic. And it just reminded me of a little star, and the little star just started shriveling. And I'm thinking, well, that's just so sad. My little jasmine is, you know, I'm not picking them anymore because they die. When you pick things, they die. I probably used that in the book too, but again, from God only knows where, I just, honey, I got to sit down and write this book, kind of like The Thrift was. I wrote that in 6 days. And the intention was never for it to be a full novel.
You wrote this book in 6 days? That's crazy to me.
I wrote that in 6 days. I just sat down and just wrote and wrote and wrote. And my husband knows when I get in a mode like that, not all books work like that for me, but when they do, they usually come out very well because I'm not tinkering with them. I'm just dumping what's in my head and letting the story tell itself. Now, Damien, Simone, and Julian, those are the names of my boss, her husband, and her son. So I sometimes use people's names. I get their approval first before I do it, figuring they'll get a kick out of it. Now, Simone wasn't in that book too much. The next book that came out, she features more, as does Julian. But I use their names. I'm horrible with putting a place on something. So there's this place in Florida called Arcadia, and me and my husband call it the land that time forgot. It's all antique and thrift stores down in the historical district. And there's this river that runs alongside it called the Peace River. And it's like, well, I've got to give it a name. And the town itself is based on Arcadia, Florida, which runs along the Peace River. The Aunt Marcy and Uncle Ralph, those are actually my mother's aunt and uncle. And the woman cried when my mom gave her one of the books that I shipped up there to her and told her that I put her in it. Now, Uncle Ralph is long past. Aunt Marcy's probably 90 years old, but she was just pink. The house that Damien lived in is just like my aunt and uncle's house. The garden in the back, the big barn in the back, the house next door at the time didn't have a young girl living there, just a bunch of stoners who played Smoke on the Water really, really loud and cranked it out. And my aunt wouldn't let me go over there and play because those bad boys would, get me in trouble. So that book was actually in my head formatted around my aunt and uncle's house, set in Arcadia instead of, up in Western New York, or they're actually more Syracuse way. So I can pick up little pieces and take your house like Dorothy and drop it into another town, describe it all, and just go off on my tangent telling my story, because in my head I see it going up those creaky little stairs, piles of stuff everywhere where you're trying to get through it. Never saw a snake there, but my uncle could roll his eyeballs like marbles in a cellophane. But I've never seen anybody who could do that, and it freaked me out as a kid. So I had to put that in there, that Uncle Ralph could roll his eyeball. So some of the characterizations were taken from truth, people I know or people I've known, names of people I know. But the story itself, just another one that just told itself after the fact. The only thing I kind of was like, I probably shouldn't do that. And, I always second guess myself after I write it, with the part with Michael Hutchence being the star in the jar. I didn't want to go into detail. I didn't want it to be depressing, and I'm like, well, what should I write? I did as much as I dared to write. And it's like, that should be enough. My mother's like, who is this Michael person? What's in the closet? And I'm like, I knew I shouldn't have put it in there, because not everybody would get it. Somebody from our generation would. And I think a lot of the people who buy that book probably are a heck of a lot younger than us. And they may do the same thing. Like, who is this? In excess.
When you say, I was going to say, when you say us, you're probably referring to me and you. Elena's still, she isn't quite 30 yet. So,
Elena, did you understand that segment in the book about Michael Hutchence?
I did.
Oh, you listen to
I did, actually.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, my mom taught me well. I am an
Right.
80s music fanatic. Yes. Not the new In Excess, the old one. The guy
The
who,
old one.
Yeah.
God bless.
R.I.P.
Sorry.
Michael Hutchence. So, but I know you love that book. And then I hadn't intended on taking it any farther. And then yet again, I got a bug up my ass of, I need to write more about the girl. I love that book. It's probably one of my favorites. Everybody asks me what's my favorite book that I wrote. They're all your book babies. You like them all. The porn books, don't care for so much. I'm going to pull those, put them under a pen name, and because they're really not fitting to what I do. But at the time I was in with a group of authors, and that's where the money is. If you ever want to be famous, you need to write this erotica stuff. And I cringed when I wrote it. It's like, this isn't me. It didn't feel like me. And I got done, and it's like, oh, thank God I'm done with that. And it's like, I haven't even looked back. I don't revisit them. I don't reread them. I could care less. It's just like, some people liked it, but for the most part, I'm like, no, this isn't me. This is not what I want to be known for. If I were to die tomorrow, don't pull the 3-pack of porn books out and read it over my grave. I'm going to be rolling in it.
I think that's probably what Anne Rice wanted too. She did the same thing. She was like, I am denouncing that whole entire thing that I did. And I was like, I read those. I saw what she did there. I saw it. You can't undo that. I've seen it. But no, she was writing something very, very depraved. That was a whole ball game different.
That was well before 50 Shades even. It was like,
oh. Somebody was like, 50 Shades was hardcore. I was like, okay, read these. And then they came back. They're like, I didn't get through the second one. I was like, okay, I read all 4. I don't know why. I just needed to know what happened. I was pissed. It's like, this is too much. Too much.
I loved Anne Rice. Back to a favorite author when I was a kid.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one I read everyone until I got up to the Witches one. And then it kind of got into a series. And then I just didn't have time anymore to devote to it.
Stuck in the witching hour, but that's such a large in charge book. But there's so many names in it. I thought about doing it because I'm an avid reader. So he was like, maybe you can get through it. And I was like, there's a lot of names. I don't know. We'll see. I like her in general, but yeah.
No, I love the vampires, Lestat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Brad Pitt. I had the biggest crush on Brad Pitt after that and Legends of the Fall. Like, don't make me watch that movie again. I'm gonna cry.
That is a very, very sad movie, actually.
So that's how The Girl came about. And then just recently, a couple months ago, I put out The Girl Who Captured Memories. And out of any of the ones that I've done, the people who have read it, which has not been a lot of people, but I haven't been pushing it. My work schedule kicked up. I just don't have time to devote to social media, paying for my Facebook ads, getting it out there. And Amazon offered hardcover. So that's the first book that I actually did in a hardcover, and then got sticker shock at how much it costs to do that. Of course, my mother ordered one. Usually my mother will order 3 copies of all my books. I'm only going to get one.
Yeah.
And I ordered 4, one to have myself, which I'll show you. I don't know, you haven't read that one yet, Charles, right?
I have not, but I have the paperback with me that I'm holding up as well.
I got the hardcover.
She's like, I'm better than you.
But it's I just flipped through it. It appears to be about twice as long as the first one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that one's later in life. That's about Julian at 19 years old, escaping college due to, he's just got a lot of crap. Him and his roommate had a falling out and a brawl, and he runs away from college saying, it's not what I want to do, which kind of was my mindset when I was in college. I didn't want to be there. And I skipped out 5 credits short of my degree. And I'm like, no, it's not what I want to do. Why spend any more money, a whole nother semester just to get those last 5 credits? So I could have had a liberal arts degree, but I didn't feel like doing the last semester. I just gave up. I'm like, no, not what I want to do. And really, writing had nothing to do with what I was going to college for. It was interior design and architectural design. And it's like, nope, not what I want to do. So, you make your choices, and I don't regret not doing it, because now I write books and I'm happy as a clam doing that. But the newest girl, I had to sit and think about that, because it's like, well, where would you go with it? What would you do now? And it's like, well, what happened if, Julian's all grown up and he goes back and he hates his father? The way the girl ended off, it was kind of a little melodramatic, little hint of tragedy, life lesson kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, how do I top that? Because I love that book. It's like, how do you top that? So for the newest one, I actually sat and kind of read some books on, building up to the climax and up the roller coaster, the emotional up and down and up and down. And it's like, okay, and kind of mapped it all out. And in some instances, I actually stuck to it and didn't let the characters take too much free rein with it. And then when I got done, proofread it, read it to the hilt, ran it through my editing software that I pay good money for, and it's just grammar software. And then I reread through it again. And that, out of all of the books that I've written, this last one has got to be the cleanest, with the way a book should be written, with, timetables, ups and downs, emotion, drama. You think everything is going to be good. You get your little good moments, your first kiss moments, and then, you send them off the rails again. And my husband was like, whoa, I really like this book. And I try to tell him, the different tropes and how writing works and is supposed to work, and he's like, I could actually see the progression where, you're sending me on a roller coaster emotionally.
Right.
And he's like, it made for such a good book. And I have a little old German lady that I walk with every morning. She bought it in hardcover to send to her daughter-in-law because she loved it so much. And she's like, I don't hear your voice in it anymore. And I'm like, oh no. Everybody up until this point is like, I love your books because it sounds like I'm talking to you. Like, is that good or bad? I don't know. And in this one, she's like, I don't hear your voice anymore. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's good. She's like, no, it's
no, that's
good.
that's a very good thing.
That's
something I'm struggling with, actually, because the books that I write, especially with family members who read them, I get so much shit from, well, not that much, but I get enough crap from people when they don't like the way a particular character acts what their nature is, because they reflect that upon me. And I tell them, that's not me, that's the character. It's, you know,
It's not
if he's a racist pig in the book, he's a racist pig in the book. That's not me. That's this guy. And they're like, well, why did you have to, like, I'll get the, and
I have to explain it to you then.
You didn't get the point. Yeah.
All right. Well, why do you have to curse so much? I'm not cursing. That's, whoever. That's, but anyway, yeah. So
I think that's everybody in general with creative brain. When you show it to people who don't have that same ability to separate real life from that world and realm that you're pulling from, they're going to reflect that on you. Like when I do horror stuff or horror art, everybody's like, why do you do stuff that's so depressing? And I'm like, listen, I don't know. I just ran with it. I had an idea, ran with it, and it just went that way. I don't know how to explain this to you. Like, it is what it is.
Right.
Because they're like, you're always so happy and upbeat. Why don't you do the happy stuff all the time? I was like, because that's not where my heart is all the time. Like,
people are afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
They want evil clown.
Right. I'm like, I like to do both. So either way, we're good, But I think it's hard to explain your creative process, your brain to other people. But like Kim said, if you can't read that far into it, then you didn't get the point,
Right. Well,
that's on you.
Anyone who's read my stuff, you're going to flip a coin whether or not it's going to be a happy ending or not, because not all endings are happy. So
True.
It's just the way
broke
it
my
is.
soul a few times, Charles. My soul. Okay.
Okay. Well, one other thing I want to ask you about writing a sequel, and with me, when I did the trilogy, Mrs. Field's Journal, it was never meant to be a trilogy. It was written as a standalone book, and I tied it up really nicely. But the people who actually followed me and wanted me to go back into that world finally convinced me to do so in 2018. And I had to sit long and hard to think about how I was going to drudge all that stuff back up again in a way, even though it's a fantasy, in a way that seemed plausible. Tell me how you did that with The Girl Who Captured Memories. I've yet to read the book, but I've got a feeling you had to, and you talked about it a little bit, you probably had to really focus and figure out a way to bring her back to the readers. If that makes sense.
I did, but to read the new one, it's not the same girl.
Okay. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's not the same girl. And actually, I made it a standalone.
Okay.
For the fact where series drives me crazy, because then it's like, I started one with the thrift, then I did A Shot in Time, which didn't do as good. Again, you're not pushing it. All the same people who read the thrift read A Shot in Time and loved it. Right. But everybody was like, I want more Francie. I want more of the thrift store. Whereas with the thrift, I could go off on so many different tangents with items that were in the shop. And I chose to take the camera, which played heavily in the first one. Well, where did the camera come from? I asked myself that. It's like, well, let's tell the story about that, but still tie it all in with the people at the thrift. So a shot in Time started out with JoJo and how JoJo came across this magical camera at a yard sale in his little hometown, which was my old hometown. So again, a lot of things based on like my grandmother's old restaurant. And it just kind of went through the progression. And my boss is like, I really hate JoJo. Is that supposed to happen? I was like, he's not a good guy. It's not all kind of light, fluffy with that little serial killer element thrown in like the thrift. This is JoJo's story, why he did the things he did, and how is he connected to Francie. So the second half of the book is about Francie and Jane back at the thrift again, and JoJo is connected to Francie. And then it went from there. And again, the big finale where, killing off your baby.
Yeah, don't give away too much.
I'm not telling nothing.
Right.
Don't tell me anything. I want to read it.
All of my books, I always like to kill off at least one of my babies. People are used to.
Or else you can't intrigue your readers. Someone has to die.
Yeah, you could have
Nicholas Spark does it. Everybody else could do it.
Exactly. Without the rain falling down and the passionate kisses in a mud puddle. So then I left it open for book 3 of the thrift, and something in me just went, I wasn't feeling it. When I write, I have to feel it or I can't do it. I hate giving dates saying, oh, coming in, 5 months from now. And I did with that. I'm like, coming in the winter of 2020, winter came. I had a lady texted me who had my business card, probably somebody I gave it away, read the first and the second one. Well, where can I find the third one? I'm like, it's in my head. I haven't written it yet. It's like, well, when's it coming out? I'm like, I don't know.
That's awesome.
So you lose a little bit of, your credibility by doing it that way. And it's like, I can't change it. It's done. I started the book and I get in a mode where I jot out 5,000 words and then the wall comes down. I'm like, it's not writer's block. I'm just not feeling it. And if I don't feel it, my magic is not going to be in the words.
Oh,
you have to feel the magic or it's not going to work. You can't force yourself to write.
I'm 1,000.
Every day, I write when I feel it.
I agree 1,000%.
Then it goes off the rails from there. I could sit down and jot out 10,000 words if, I'm in the lair at 9 a.m. and, 2 p.m. Oh crap, I better eat something. I look down, I'm like, oh, I wrote 10,000 words and just told half the book. But yeah, it's easy being a writer, but it's difficult being a writer because, you think that you have so much expectation hanging over your head of, you're going to be famous, you're going to be Stephen King. And I got to the point where, well, I don't want to be Stephen King. Yeah, it'd be nice to have his money, but money doesn't buy you happiness. I don't want my life consumed by traveling the world doing book signings and having no life. I like connecting with readers. I like talking with people who want to read the books and ask me about the books. That just fuels me up beyond belief. Even if you don't buy the book, just to sit there and, chit chat and well, what's this about? What's this about? And they walk away like, oh, I'm going to go check out Amazon. And they may not for months later. They're on vacation and it's not top of their list. But when I see spikes on Amazon, when I happen to give away, 10 business cards at where I work, and you see, oh, somebody bought an ebook. Cool. It's like, you don't know who it is, but you just hope they like it. And I had a teenager came in the other day who bought The Girl Who Captured Memories. And the first thing I thought of is, did I have any sex in the book? Like, no, it was clean. It was a clean book. And here's a mother with her 12-year-old daughter clutching my book. They said the author was here today. And I'm like, wow, I got a kid reading my book. I was just tickle pink because it's kind of geared to me, a younger mindset.
Yeah.
And they asked me about how the girl came to be. And I told them the mother's just like, wow. She's like, this is just fascinating. I'm like, well, this is book number 2. Book number 1, you can buy behind us at the bookstore, or you got them on Amazon, but they're standalone. You don't have to read one to have read the other. And 2 days later, I get a ebook sale for The Girl Who Captured the Stars on Amazon. I'm thinking, well, maybe that little girl read it and gave it to mom to read. And they're like, we got to see what happened in the first book.
Right.
Like little backwards thinking, but it's like, I didn't link them on Amazon because I didn't want, again, that series thing where you have to read one. You could pick up any of them and read it and then be like, oh, well, look, there's another one out similar, but not. Let's go back and read that one. I want it to be the option. I don't want to have to rope people into, well, okay, well, I got to get the next one. And then it sits on their shelf and they don't get to it forever because they forget about it. And it's like, you read it when you read it. I get excited.
Yeah, that's what I've told people about Mrs. Field's journal. It was written as a standalone book. So if you read it and don't want to read another one, that's fine. It was a standalone story. I read
out of order. I think I read number 2 first.
Well,
and then
you're
fine. Like, oh, there's another one. And it's like, oh, okay. So then I backtracked and read that one. And then it's like, okay. And then Mazis wasn't out yet. And I was like, okay, what happened? See, now I gotta go out.
That's what I got from a lot of people on that, because it was really.
I was one of those.
Yeah, it was really one long book. So that's 77,000 words or whatever into the locket. And I was like, this is a story just kept coming to your point. It just wouldn't stop. So I chopped it on that cliffhanger and said, oh, well, they'll see it in a year. So a year later, the third one came out. So that was.
I had just met you and I messaged you and I was like, listen, I need to know. Okay. You left me hanging. I need to know. And you were like, you read both? Yeah, I did. I need to know what happened. Thanks.
Elena is an avid reader and she reads very quickly. So you can't put them out
Loves the
fast enough for
books.
her. Yeah, she's amazing. And I'm in awe of you at how quickly you can write books. I cannot write books that fast. When people ask me how long it takes to write a novel, my general answer to folks is a pregnancy term. It takes me about 9 months to put a book out.
Mhm.
So that's impressive that you can focus and churn them out that quickly. I wish I could focus and churn them out that quickly.
It's called being unfocused and letting the little hamsters in your head just write the book for you. And all you got to do is use your fingers and drink your water.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I completely agree with you about is I don't sit down to write if I don't feel like writing. If it's not there, I won't do it. I don't really suffer from writer's block either. It's more of, is it there? Okay, it's not there today, so I'm not going to do it today. And then you'll see me post on Facebook when I go down music rabbit holes. It's because it's not there. I start with the intention of writing. I said, no, it's not here today, so I'll just go into all.
Set it to the side.
Squirrel. So.
No, I'm that way.
I actually struggle with that.
Yeah,
I'm starting new stories. I have a young adult fantasy book written, edited, ready to go, with the intent of it being a trilogy. And then you start reading up on, being a proper author, making money in it, and putting the prequel out for free to draw them in, and that you should have all 3 ready before you release the series. And I started writing the prequel, and it was just like, there we go again.
Yeah.
Not feeling it. So I have 1 written ready to go, which is a great little tale, but it's like, I'll do something with it. I got the cover for it. I've got the cover for book 2 a lady made for me. And it's like, I'll get back to it. But in the meantime, squirrel theory of, oh, what about this? I've got a book written, started about ravens, inconvenience of ravens. And it's Indian kind of.
That sounds interesting. Yeah.
Indian homes and the birds that are kind of mystical. I'm in this mystical mode lately. Reading tarot.
That's never a bad thing. That's never a bad thing.
No, but a lot of people are like, no, get back to what you write. I'm like, I write what the little muse tells me. The little muse monkey just doesn't shut up, and just churn out what I churn out. But I have 5 stories started. 1, I got a Ouija board last year on summer vacation. It was marked free on a table, and the guy's just like, oh, yeah, that was my kids. It's been out in the garage since the 70s. I don't even think they played with it. I open it up. It's like brand new. It's just, my girlfriend who's got me into oracle cards and crystal healing and Reiki and all that good stuff. She's like, no. I'm like, I didn't buy it to play with it. I bought it so I could burn the edges and make a cover for my book. I don't play with Ouija boards, but I didn't want to have to go out and spend $20 on a Ouija board that I'm going to burn just so I can make a really cool cover for my book.
Yeah.
Well, I actually know someone who collects them, and they have a very weird, they've written a lot of things about how weird their house is at night. And I was like, see, I would rather not. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it.
I burn my sage over it. I burn
right. I'm like, I gotta burn the sage. I gotta light a white candle. I gotta do the salt on the sheet. I gotta just throw it away from the house. So like the intentions are good.
Right.
A whole lot of stuff you gotta do.
Well, this is an unsolicited plug for Elena, and if there are any other authors out there listening, Kim brought up book covers. If you need a book cover, and I don't think it necessarily has to be just in the horror lane, even though we're talking about horror. Elena can come up with some awesome images for book covers. She's done my last 2 book covers. Yeah,
they're fun. They're intricate. I was like, wow, that's somebody's face. She did that.
Yeah, that's her face. Her face was on one of them, and then she had
green, I was green, scaly looking.
Oh, that was
me.
Yeah, that's her.
That's me.
No.
Yeah, that was for which one was that? Glenda's and the Snake Lady. So that was her Snake Lady look. So she did the cover for the Road to Terror. And
it was lack of other people to do makeup on during COVID, so I felt bad that it was just me. I was like, there's not a lot of people right now.
But yeah, she does some amazing covers. So I wanted to shout out to Elena.
Keep that on my back burner. And
Collabs are always fun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can come up to New York in the summertime and do my war painting. You know, take my picture.
I'll be there in June. I'll be there in June.
Oh,
I
you'll
think we're
be.
going to.
Yeah, I'll
We'll
be
be up
in. I'll be in Kim's neck of the woods in June, so we'll be in
I
Oh,
know.
very
I'm
nice.
gonna miss them.
Yeah.
We could finally meet for real, and I'm
Oh.
not gonna be here. You gave me the dates. I'm like, I won't be there.
Oh,
Finally
well,
makes it back down to Venice. I won't be there. So.
that's right. That's right.
But I told him some fun places. I'll get him a list of fun places to go while he's here.
And you said you're in Venice?
And then you can go in the gift store. You can go to the gift store and hold up pictures of my books. I'm here, but you're not. But your books are here.
That's right. All right. It's Venice, Florida, Elena.
Oh,
It's
Venice is actually a really, really nice area. My dad, he used to live in the Sarasota area, and then he moved a little bit closer, kind of towards Tampa. But the Venice area is so nice.
Yeah, yeah. We like it.
Quiet.
There. It is quiet. Now, Kim said it's grown up a little bit since I've been there. I haven't been there in a few years. Yeah, but
oh yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up almost on the hour mark in the podcast. So, Kim, I want to allot some time for you to tell all of the listeners where they can find your stuff, maybe what you're working on now. But I want to make sure we leave time for you to self-promote here and let us know where we can find your books.
Well, all of my books are on Amazon, unless you're in the Venice area, in which case they're at the Island Gift Nook and the Island Bookstore. But everything is free on Kindle Unlimited. I know a lot of people don't like Amazon, but I also sell them through myself. It's https:// tales from KLLaettner.square.site. I'm sure you won't remember that, but I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere.
I will put links on the podcast. So as long as I have the correct web address, I'll put it on there so they can click on it. But anyway, you can continue.
And those ones are ones that I sign for you. It's just credit card and I ship them out. Shipping, there's different blocks, whether you live local and I can drop it off or if you want it shipped somewhere. So, but I do some business that way, but I'm doing my first book fair author event with 22 other local authors on the 19th of March, but I don't think it's open to the public. And that'll be scary because some of the authors that are there are like big wigs down here. And I'm going to be like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Sitting here at a table with all these people who probably sold millions of their books. And I'll be like, I'm nobody. Just sit over here. But I'll do good. I have faith that it's all going to be fun. Take a few books to sell, a couple to donate to their little library. But for the most part, everything I have is on Amazon and it's under my author name, which is K.L. Laettner. And Laettner is like, if you ever follow basketball, Christian Laettner, the basketball player, same spelling. It's my husband's second, third cousin, something like that. Never met the guy, so don't ask me for his autograph because I don't even have one. But what I'm working on now is, again, the muse carried me off since I kind of got into oracle cards, tarot cards, crystal healing, quantum touch, energy healing. This one is called The Mystic Dream, and it's about a 14-year-old girl who is on a journey with her grandfather. And it's pretty much kind of a spiritual book. It's for the most part all positive in nature and little life lessons that she learns along the way. And a lot of it has to do with like reincarnation and your prior lives. And there's talking animals in it and all sorts of kind of fun little weird mystical things on the journey. So if that's your cup of tea, you'll like it. Most of my readers are probably going to be like, where's the third Tales from the Thrift? We don't want to read this. And that's my love child. I don't care. I'm writing it because the universe is telling me that I need to write this. So I'm listening. And that's what I'm working on right now. And it was supposed to be a novella at 32-ish thousand words. And I'm at 42,000 now. And with no sight, nothing, no end in sight. So it'll be done when I'm done with it. I don't have a time frame. I've learned not to say, oh, it'll be done by such and such a date, because the way life works, my work schedule kicks up. I may only write in it once a week, or I might write in it 4 days a week. I don't know. The muse only knows. And I listen to her when she bitches at me and tells me to get to work. And I listen. But it'll be fun. I've already got the cover done. It's a lion with like a constellation scene set behind him, and it's going to be a gorgeous cover. And I'm just eager to get it done so I can get it out there. This year I'll probably put out 2, maybe 3 books, whereas on any given year it's like 4, sometimes 5. I've been doing it for 3 years in March. So happy March anniversary of writing books. And I'm just kind of slowing down a little bit. And I'd rather put out a good quality instead of pushing out quantity. Before it was get rich, write lots of books. Now it's like, no, it's just a lot of work to do that. I'd rather just take my time, write something that I love to write, and something that I know that, you know, people will love to read and get lost in. And that's what reading's all about. Losing yourself in a book and somebody else's world and be like, oh, it's time to go eat dinner. Oh, okay. Where'd the last 2 hours go of my time? Yeah, that's the best thing. You know, if you can take somebody away like that as an author, you've done your job. You know, if people don't want to put the book down because, well, what happens next? You know, that to me means more than, you know, making $1 million and being the next Stephen King. You know, just that something like that you remember later, like, oh, I remember this book. I'm going to reread that again. It's still sitting on my shelf because I didn't dump it in Goodwill because it was worthy. You know, that kind of thing.
Well, Kim, we certainly appreciated having you on the show today. It was awesome. So
it was fun.
It was fun. So
it was.
Laettner,
and I don't think you can see the wrinkles in my neck. I'm like I'm not even.
The things that women worry about when we're on the show.
I had to close the blinds because I had this glare coming in. I'm like, I look like that half face from Batman or whatever, half bright, half dark. I'm like, I gotta put the drapes down a little bit.
I couldn't get the lighting right today. I was like, it's fine. It'll be okay. It'll be all right.
People are more listening. Do you find a lot of people are watching the video or more so listening to it?
Kind of in the middle, actually.
Yeah, it's in the middle. A lot of them like to see the faces, but the stats over on Anchor seem like a lot of people are listening on the podcast platforms too. So
you can share it on my Facebook page. I think I have to approve anything. You know, I did that years ago because people were putting weird crap on my timeline. So
yeah,
but that way I've got a whole bunch of people keep asking me when it's going to happen. I'm like, well, I know it happens March 5th. I don't know when it goes live, but
yeah, well, we've got quite a few podcasts recorded. So we've got podcasts recorded through April. So this one will probably
it doesn't even make sense right now in my head.
I know. Well,
doesn't even make any sense.
Y'all are famous.
We're trying.
We're getting some pretty good guests, and you're one of them.
We are.
And we didn't even talk about the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
We spent a whole.
Hey, I'll be on there the whole time.
Right. Well, y'all can continue this podcast for the next 4 hours. I'm going to go. Anyway, Laettner, tell us what you got out there and where people can find you.
Well, I am Jukebox Baby 78 on Instagram as well as on TikTok. So if you like to see crazy body paint makeups, regular makeups, general life stuff, that's where I am. If you want to follow me through Facebook and go about my little rantings and my memes daily with all my art in between, I am Elena Marie on Facebook. If you guys want any makeup done or anything, you can DM me on Facebook or Instagram. That's kind of one of the easiest ways. And I could always give you my business email as well on either one. But that is where I'm at. And always listen to our stuff. We appreciate all of our listeners that have come so far. It has been quite an honor to bless your ears and your visuals on YouTube. But Kim, thank you so much for being on with us today and for just sharing your gift with the world. I know with a lot of creative people how hard it is to put yourself out there. And it's just so nice that you keep doing it. And it's just thank you.
Following your passion.
That's right.
Right.
You guys both know. So
that's right.
But, no, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Oh,
I was all nervous at first and ate my lunch beforehand. It's like, okay.
Well,
it's funny. I'm all dressed up on top. I have shorts on the bottom that completely don't match.
We all have pajamas on. It's fine.
It is a laid back podcast. And I am Charles Campbell. You can find me on Facebook under Charles Campbell Author. You can find me in the same place on Instagram under Charles Campbell Author. You can find my books at valleyboypublications.com. The ebooks are also available on Amazon, so you can check them out there if you're more of a digital reader. But yeah, that's what I've got out there. We really appreciate everyone listening to the show today, and we will catch you next time on Horror 421, the podcast. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you had a horrific time, lovelies. Thank you for tuning in to Horror 421, the podcast. Be sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.